The news spread across Earth like wildfire. Reports from deep space explorers said the Galaxy Empire was moving its fleets again. This was not unusual, for the Empire often showed its power to smaller worlds. But this time was different. The scouts claimed the fleet was coming closer to human space. In the Great Hall of the United Earth Council, leaders argued with loud voices. Some wanted to prepare defenses. Others spoke of surrender before war even began. Fear filled the air. For the Galaxy Empire was known across the stars as ruthless and powerful. Entire worlds had bowed before their armies. Few dared to resist. In the middle of this storm of voices sat Mira. She was not a soldier or general. She was a diplomat. She had been chosen many times to speak for Earth in meetings with alien races. She was respected for her clear mind and her calm way of speaking. But what surprised many was her reaction now. Mira hardly seemed concerned. While the others raised their voices, she sat with her notebook open, slowly writing down thoughts. Her calm eyes followed the debate, yet she did not join in. Some leaders grew angry with her silence. "Why do you sit there without a word?" demanded one council member, his face red from shouting. "Do you not understand the danger? The Empire threatens war. They could destroy our fleets in days." Mira lifted her eyes from her notes. "Yes," she said softly, "I understand. But fear will not help us. Panic will not save us. The Empire is strong, yes, but strength alone does not decide every war." Her words quieted a few voices, but not for long. Some muttered that she was too calm, too cold, or perhaps she did not care. But Mira was not without feeling. She cared for Earth as deeply as anyone in that room. She simply had a different way of showing it. That evening, when the meeting ended in chaos, Mira walked out into the city streets. The sky above was filled with bright lights of ships preparing for defense. People whispered in fear as they passed her. Stores closed early. Families stayed indoors. Rumors grew by the hour. Some believed the Empire's fleet was already close. Others said spies walked among them. Fear was everywhere. Mira moved through the streets with quiet steps. She looked around not with fear but with thought. In her mind, she remembered old history books she had studied as a child. She thought of great empires on Earth's own past, empires that had risen high and fallen low. Rome, Mongols, Britain, many others. All had seemed unstoppable, yet none had lasted forever. She smiled faintly to herself. Humanity had faced endless wars and disasters. They had faced hunger, storms, plagues, and still survived. If the Galaxy Empire thought Earth would simply bow, then they knew nothing about the spirit of humankind. At home, Mira sat at her desk by the window. She opened her notebook and began to write. Her handwriting was neat and steady, much like her voice. She did not write about fear. Instead, she wrote about strategy, about words that could cut deeper than weapons. She planned for the day she would meet the Empire's envoys, for Mira knew it was only a matter of time. The Empire would not stay silent. They would send their message of power as they always did. And when that time came, someone had to face them with more than fear. Someone had to show them that humans were not as weak as they believed. The next morning, the council gathered again. This time the air was heavy with dread, for new reports had come in. The Empire's fleet had crossed the border of a nearby star system. They were moving fast. Within weeks, they could stand above Earth itself. The council chamber shook with panic once more. But again, Mira sat quietly listening. When the shouting reached its peak, she stood and raised her hand. Her calm voice cut through the noise. "Let me go," she said. The hall grew silent. "Let me meet them. Let me speak with their envoys before war begins." The council members looked at her in shock. Some shook their heads at once. "Impossible, dangerous, they will crush you." Mira only smiled. "Perhaps. Or perhaps they will listen to a voice that does not shake with fear. Empires are used to fear. They expect it. But what they do not expect is calm defiance." The chamber fell into whispers. Some thought she was brave. Others thought she was foolish. But as the debate stretched on, the truth became clear. No one else had the courage to step forward. And so, though doubt filled many hearts, Mira was chosen. She would be the one to meet the Empire. That night, as the city lights flickered and the stars burned bright above, Mira prepared for her journey. She packed little, only her notebook, a few books, and the calm strength she carried inside her. She did not fear the days ahead, for Mira knew something the others had forgotten. Empires rise and empires fall. But humanity, stubborn, scarred, and unyielding, always finds a way to endure. and in that thought she found peace. The spaceport was alive with movement. Soldiers marched in tight rows. Engineers checked the engines of defense ships, and officers shouted orders through the noise. The air smelled of fuel and metal. In the middle of all this stood Mira, holding only a small travel case and her notebook. She looked out at the endless dark sky, where stars glimmered like watchful eyes. The council had finally given her approval to meet the Empire's envoys. Many had argued against it until the very last moment, but in the end, no one else dared to face the challenge. Mira was calm as ever, though inside she carried the weight of an entire planet. General Rowan, commander of Earth's fleets, walked beside her. His broad shoulders and stern eyes made him look as if he had never smiled in his life. He studied Mira with doubt. "You do not carry weapons," he said. "I carry words," Mira answered. "Words cannot stop warships," the general muttered. Mira turned her calm gaze toward him. "Sometimes they can. Sometimes a single word can stop a sword before it is drawn." The general did not reply, but his hard eyes softened for a brief moment. Perhaps he hoped she was right. Mira boarded the shuttle that would take her to the edge of human space. The ship was small, built for speed rather than battle. A handful of crew members joined her, most of them young pilots who looked nervous about their unusual passenger. Mira gave them a gentle smile, and they seemed to relax. The journey through space was quiet yet filled with tension. News of the Empire's movement traveled faster than the ships themselves. Every system they passed whispered rumors of the coming storm. Some worlds were already preparing to surrender, fearing the same fate as others before them. Mira listened, but she did not let despair touch her heart. Each night she sat by the window of her cabin, writing in her notebook. She wrote down questions to ask the Empire, not in fear but in challenge. She wrote reminders of Earth's history, lessons of survival, and stories of human defiance. The crew sometimes watched her in silence, wondering how one woman could stay so steady when all others shook with dread. After several days, their ship reached the agreed meeting point, a neutral station that floated above a barren moon. The station was old and empty, kept alive only for rare negotiations. As they approached, Mira could already see the shadow of something enormous. The Empire's ship. It was unlike any vessel she had ever seen. Its dark hull stretched like a mountain across the stars, glowing with strange lights. It carried the weight of countless battles, and the mere sight of it made the crew stiffen with fear. Mira, however, studied it calmly. "Impressive," she whispered, not in awe but in analysis. But size does not always decide victory. The shuttle docked. A voice from the station announced that the Empire's envoy awaited her. Mira stood, straightened her plain gray coat, and took her notebook in hand. The crew wished her luck, but she only nodded and walked out with steady steps. The station's halls were cold and quiet, the metal walls echoing each footstep. At the far end, the doors opened, and there stood the alien envoy. He was tall, his skin pale with a faint shimmer like stone polished by time. His eyes glowed faintly gold, and his voice was smooth yet sharp when he spoke. "You are the chosen speaker of Earth." "Yes," Mira replied with calm tone. "I am Mira." The envoy tilted his head, studying her as if she were some small creature that had wandered into his path. "Your world faces the power of the Empire. You know what this means. Many have bent the knee. You will too." Mira did not bow. She did not tremble. Instead, she opened her notebook and slowly turned a page. Then she looked back at him with steady eyes. "You speak of power," she said, "but power is not only in fleets or weapons. Tell me, envoy, has your empire ever faced a people who fight not because they are strong, but because they refuse to break?" The envoy narrowed his glowing eyes. He seemed almost confused by her calm tone, by the way she dared to question him without raising her voice. "We have crushed countless rebellions. Your species is no different." Mira smiled faintly. "Perhaps. Or perhaps you will find we are not so simple. Humans do not always win battles by strength. We win by refusing to stop, by standing again when we fall, by making sure no victory against us is ever easy." Her words hung in the air like a quiet storm. The envoy said nothing at first. His golden eyes flickered as if weighing her meaning. He had expected fear, perhaps even begging. But what he saw instead was something different, unmoved defiance. Finally he spoke. "The Empire will send its commander. He will decide your fate. Be ready." Mira closed her notebook. I am always ready. As the envoy turned and walked away, the silence of the station returned. Mira stood alone, her steady hands holding her notebook. She knew this was only the beginning. Soon she would face the full weight of the Empire, but she did not fear it. For Mira believed something the Empire could not understand. Strength was not only in weapons or numbers. True strength was in spirit, and humanity's spirit had never broken, and she was ready to prove it. The meeting hall of the neutral station was vast and hollow, its walls echoing with every step. Long ago it had been built for negotiations between rival star systems, but now it stood half-forgotten, its metal floors scarred with age. Bright lights flickered above, struggling to shine against the emptiness. Mira walked into the center of the hall, her notebook in hand. Behind her, the doors closed with a heavy sound. Ahead, on the far side, a group of alien guards stood in formation. Their armor was dark, their weapons sharp, their glowing eyes fixed on her. They did not move, but the weight of their presence filled the room like a storm. From the middle of their ranks stepped the Empire's commander. He was taller than the envoy she had met before. His presence colder, heavier. His skin shimmered silver in the light, and lines of dark blue ran across his armor like rivers of energy. His eyes were sharper, brighter, carrying the calm cruelty of one who had seen many worlds bow before him. The commander stopped a few steps away from Mira. He did not greet her. He did not offer courtesy. Instead, his voice filled the chamber like a blade cutting the air. You are the one they call Mira. Earth sends you to speak for them. Yes, she said, her tone steady. I am their voice. The commander's golden gaze narrowed. You stand too calmly for one whose world faces destruction. Do you not fear me? Mira opened her notebook, slowly turning a page as if she had all the time in the universe. Then she looked up, meeting his eyes without hesitation. Why should I fear you? You are powerful, yes, but so were many empires before you. Power fades, fear fades, but will does not. A faint murmur passed among the alien guards. The commander raised one hand, silencing them. His gaze locked onto her. Your kind has no understanding of the Empire. Our fleets stretch across galaxies. Our armies have never known defeat. Your people are nothing compared to us. Mira tilted her head slightly, her calm expression unbroken. Perhaps. But tell me, Commander, how many of those victories were against those who refused to bow? Against those who would rather be broken than bend? The commander's eyes flickered. He had expected her to beg, or at least to tremble under his words. Instead, he saw no fear in her, only a quiet, stubborn fire. You believe Earth can resist us? His voice sharpened, carrying a note of anger now. I believe Earth will not surrender, Mira replied. Even if you destroy our ships, our cities, our fields, we will not give you peace. Every loss will only sharpen our spirit. Every strike will only awaken more defiance. That is what it means to be human. The silence that followed was heavy. Pressing down on the chamber, the alien guards shifted uneasily, their glowing eyes moving between their commander and the human woman who dared to speak so boldly. The commander stepped closer, his shadow falling over her. You speak bravely, but bravery is nothing against fire and steel. One world cannot stand against an empire. Mira's voice stayed calm. One world cannot, perhaps, but one people can. Humanity has always stood against greater foes. Do you think we have never faced destruction? We have fought against storms, hunger, fire, and death itself. We have rebuilt after every fall. Empires fall, Commander, but humanity rises again and again. For the first time, the commander did not reply at once. His golden eyes searched hers as if trying to understand what made her so calm. What gave her the strength to speak to him as though he were not a monster towering over her. Finally, he leaned back slightly. You are either foolish or fearless. Both can be dangerous. Mira closed her notebook with a soft sound. Perhaps I am both. But you will learn that humans are not easy to break. Even if you win battles, you will never win peace. The commander's face did not show emotion, but his silence was louder than words. He turned away, his cloak brushing against the floor. His guards followed him as he left the hall, though several looked back at Mira with faint unease. When the heavy doors closed once again, Mira stood alone in the vast chamber. She breathed slowly, her hand resting on her notebook. She was calm but not careless. She knew what had just happened was only the first step. The commander had not dismissed her, nor had he crushed her. He had listened, even if only for a moment. That was enough. As she walked back toward her quarters, Mira thought about the conversation. She had planted a seed of doubt, small but alive. The commander had seen something in her, something the Empire did not expect from humans. Defiance without fear. And that seed, if it grew, could change everything. The next morning on the neutral station, the air was colder than before. The lights hummed above the empty halls and the silence carried an edge of tension. Mira sat alone in her small chamber, her notebook resting open on the table. She had slept little, but her eyes were clear. She was waiting. At last, a message came. The Empire's commander had summoned her again. This time the meeting would be longer, and she would stand before more than one alien officer. Mira closed her notebook gently, picked it up and walked out with calm steps. The hall where they met was brighter than before. Large banners of the Empire hung from the high walls, their dark symbols glowing faintly. Rows of alien officers stood at the sides, silent but watchful. The commander sat at the center of a raised platform, his golden eyes steady as Mira entered. "You return," he said, his voice echoing across the chamber. "Perhaps you hope to change your world's fate with more words." Mira nodded calmly. "Yes, words can change more than you believe." The commander leaned forward. "Then speak. Show us what humans call strength." Mira opened her notebook and began to walk slowly across the floor. She did not rush and she did not raise her voice. Her words came smooth and steady, filling the hall. "On Earth, long before we reached the stars, there were empires like yours. They believed they could never be defeated. They spread across lands, took what they wished, and ruled with power. Yet every empire, no matter how strong, fell. Not because of weapons alone, but because people would not stay silent forever. People rise again, even when broken." The officers exchanged glances. They had heard humans were strange, but this calm, steady defiance was not what they had expected. Mira continued. "We humans learned something from all those falls. We learned how to endure. We learned how to fight in ways greater foes could not predict. We learned that even when we lose, we are not truly defeated. That is our hidden strength." The commander's golden eyes narrowed, though his face remained still. "You believe endurance will save you against fleets that blot out the stars?" Mira smiled faintly. "Yes, because endurance makes victory costly for those who face us. You may burn our cities, but we will build again. You may strike down our fleets, but we will rise again. Every loss feeds our spirit, not your rule." For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Then one of the officers stepped forward, his silver armor shining under the lights. His voice carried doubt. "Commander, she speaks like one who has seen such things before. Could it be true that her people have endured as she claims?" The commander silenced him with a sharp glance. But even he could not deny that Mira's words stirred something. He rose from his seat and walked down the steps until he stood face to face with her. "You remind me of fire," he said, "small yet dangerous. If left unchecked, it grows." Mira met his gaze without blinking. "And you remind me of stone. Strong but brittle if struck the right way. Fire can turn stone to dust, Commander." The hall grew heavy with her words. The alien officers shifted again, unease showing in their movements. The commander stared at her for a long moment as if searching for weakness. Yet he found none. At last he stepped back. "You speak bravely, but words alone will not turn aside the Empire's will. Our fleets are already moving. Soon your world will see what true power is." Mira closed her notebook softly. "Perhaps. Or perhaps your fleets will see what true resistance is." The commander's eyes flickered, a brief sign of thought before his mask returned. "Go. We will meet again when the time is right." Mira bowed her head slightly, not as submission but as acknowledgement. She turned and walked out, her steps even, her back straight. When she returned to her quarters, the young pilot who had brought her asked nervously, "Did it go badly, Lady Mira? You look so calm, I cannot tell." Mira gave him a gentle smile. "It went as expected. They do not yet believe, but the seed is planted." The pilot frowned. "Seed?" "Yes," she said. "Seeds of doubt. They came expecting fear and obedience. Instead, they found calm defiance. They will not forget that." That night, Mira sat by the window again, looking out at the stars. The Empire's massive ship floated in the distance, its lights shining like cold fire. To many, it looked unstoppable, but to Mira, it was just another empire, large, loud, and certain of its strength. She had seen enough history to know what certainty often became. She wrote in her notebook late into the night. Her words were not only for herself, but for her people. Words to remind them of who they were, of what they had endured, of the strength they carried hidden within, the hidden strength of humanity, and she knew that soon. The Empire would discover it for themselves. The stars above Earth's borders burned brighter than usual, but it was not beauty that filled the sky. It was the glow of war. The Galaxy Empire had moved its fleets forward. Enormous ships, each the size of a city, entered human space like shadows swallowing the light. Their presence alone was enough to shake weaker worlds into surrender. But Earth did not send a white flag. Instead, hidden across nearby systems, human fleets waited in silence. Mira had returned from the neutral station days earlier. She had stood before the Council again, her calm eyes steady as ever. Reports of the Empire's movements filled the chamber. But while many leaders trembled, Mira spoke with quiet certainty. "They expect us to fight as other empires do," she said. "Straight lines, grand battles, fleets clashing head-on. That is what they know. That is what they are prepared for. But we will not give them what they expect." Her words spread among the commanders and plans began to shift. Small fleets broke apart, scattering across asteroid belts and hidden bases. Ships moved quietly through the dark, waiting like hunters in tall grass. When the Empire's first wave entered the Sol system, they found not a great defense line, but silence. The dark side of Mars, the rings of Saturn, the belts of asteroids, all seemed empty. The commander of the Empire, seated on his massive bridge, frowned. His golden eyes scanned the reports. "Where is their fleet? Why do they not defend their home?" Then the first strike came. From the shadows of an asteroid field, human ships leapt forward. Small, quick, and sharp, they fired concentrated blasts at the Empire's supply vessels. Explosions bloomed like fire in the dark. Before the Empire could react, the human ships vanished again, slipping into hidden paths known only to them. The commander's voice rang across his bridge. "Find them. Crush them." But it was not so easy. Every time the Empire's ships gathered, the humans struck from another direction. A lone cruiser would appear out of nowhere, strike a blow and vanish before larger forces could close in. Mines hidden in the rings of Saturn tore through massive warships. Ambushes from the dark side of moons crippled supply lines. The humans refused to fight the Empire's war. Instead, they fought their own. From her place within Earth's command center, Mira watched the reports arrive. Each time a human fleet escaped after a strike, the Council cheered. But Mira only nodded, her calm expression unchanged. "This is only the beginning," she said. "We cannot win by numbers. We win by making them doubt. We win by showing them that no victory will come easily." Meanwhile, in his flagship, the Empire's commander felt that doubt begin to creep in. He was used to crushing enemies quickly, breaking them before they could resist. But Earth was different. Its people fought like shadows, striking and vanishing, leaving wounds that would not heal. He remembered Mira's words in the negotiation hall. "Even if you destroy our ships, our cities, our fields, we will not give you peace." The words returned to him now, echoing in his thoughts as he studied the maps of battle. For every human ship destroyed, two more seemed to rise from hidden places. For every system they claimed, resistance flared behind them. The war was not clean, it was not quick, and it was not what the Empire had expected. Back on Earth, the people watched the skies with both fear and pride. News of victories, small but important, spread from city to city. Families whispered about the bravery of hidden fleets. Children drew pictures of tiny ships defeating giants. The spirit of humanity grew brighter, refusing to bend. Mira walked through the streets often, speaking with the people. She listened to their fears, but reminded them gently of their strength. "Do not look at the size of their fleets," she said. "Look at the size of your courage. That is what keeps us alive." Her calm words spread hope more powerful than any weapon. Soldiers marched with firmer steps. Pilots flew with sharper focus. Even the Council, once drowning in fear, began to speak with steady voices. The turning point had begun. In the depths of space, the commander of the Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring out at the stars. He felt anger at the humans' defiance, but beneath it something else stirred. Frustration, yes, but also respect. "These humans," he muttered, his voice low. "They fight as though defeat is only another step toward victory." The officers around him exchanged uneasy looks. The seed of doubt had grown further. For the first time in his long career, the commander began to wonder if conquest would be worth the price. The Galaxy Empire's flagship hovered over the outer planets of human space. Its hull gleamed like a dark mountain in the void, and the golden eyes of its commander scanned the stars for any sign of resistance. Every report brought new frustrations. Human fleets struck quickly, then vanished without warning, leaving gaps and chaos in their wake. Inside Earth's command center, Mira studied the latest transmissions. Her calm face betrayed none of the tension that others felt. She had predicted this pattern of hit-and-run strikes, of attacks from hidden positions, and yet her calm was not arrogance. It was certainty born from understanding humanity itself. The commander's message arrived, demanding a second meeting. He would speak to Mira directly, frustrated by the humans' unexpected tactics. Mira prepared. She dressed in her plain gray coat, her notebook at her side. She did not carry weapons, for she did not need them. Her strength came from her words, her clarity, and her quiet confidence. The shuttle carrying her approached the Empire's massive ship. The hum of engines and the light of distant stars seemed small compared to the enormous shadow ahead. Yet Mira did not flinch. She walked with steady steps as the shuttle docked. The airlock opened and Mira entered a vast chamber filled with light reflecting off the polished metal walls. The commander was waiting, surrounded by his advisors. He stood tall, his golden eyes sharp, his armor glinting in the glow. "You are persistent," he said, his voice calm but edged with anger. "Your fleets are not enough to defeat us. Your people cannot withstand our power forever. Why do you continue to resist?" Mira closed her notebook and met his gaze without hesitation. "Because resistance is who we are. Humans do not fight only when we must. We fight because our spirit refuses to bend. You may destroy our ships, burn our cities, even strike our fields, but we will never surrender. That is not bravery. That is survival." The commander's golden eyes narrowed. "Survival is meaningless if your world falls. Why should I listen to words when my fleets can crush you?" Mira stepped closer, her voice steady and clear. "Because words shape more than fear. They shape understanding. You may win battles, but do you understand humans? Every strike you make against us only strengthens our will. Every ship you destroy makes another pilot more determined. Every city you harm makes more people rise to protect the next one." The commander's advisors shifted uncomfortably. The calm defiance of one human woman carried more weight than any fleet. He stared at Mira, trying to find weakness, trying to intimidate her. But there was none. "You speak as if humanity is unbeatable," he said finally. "It is only one world. One species. How can that matter against an empire that spans the stars?" Mira smiled faintly, a small gesture that held no fear. "You are strong, yes. But history shows empires fall no matter their size. They fall not only because of armies, but because they face forces they cannot predict. The human spirit is one such force. You can strike with your fleets, but you cannot strike our will." The commander's golden eyes flickered, a rare sign of thought. He had expected fear, or perhaps bargaining, but what he saw instead was calm certainty. It unsettled him more than any fleet could. "Your words are bold," he said at last, his voice quieter, measured. "But bold words cannot stop fleets. They cannot stop war. Why do you speak so fearlessly?" Mira opened her notebook and placed it on the table between them. "Because fear does not serve us. Panic does not save lives. Calm defiance can. You see, Commander, humans are not just ships and cities. We are ideas, courage, and persistence. That is why we speak without fear. That is why we act without hesitation. That is why we endure." For a moment the room was silent. Even the hum of the ship seemed quieter, as if listening. The commander stared at Mira, and in his mind he weighed the words. Every victory he had known had been met with submission. Yet here, a single human woman, alone and unarmed, challenged him with nothing but her voice. Finally he turned away, walking toward the viewing window. His golden eyes scanned the darkness outside as if seeing the stars differently. "Perhaps your kind is more troublesome than I imagined," he muttered. Mira stood alone, calm and steady. She had not raised her voice. She had not threatened. Yet she had planted doubt, and in that doubt lay power. When she returned to her shuttle, the young pilot asked nervously, "Did it work? Did you scare him?" Mira smiled softly. "No, fear is not the point. Understanding is. He knows now that we will not break. That is more than fear, it is respect. And respect can change the course of a war." As the shuttle sped away from the Empire's flagship, Mira looked at the stars. Somewhere in the darkness, the Empire's commander thought of her words, and a seed of doubt grew in his mind. The humans were not weak. They were not predictable. And the Galaxy Empire would soon learn that some victories came at too high a cost. And Mira, fearless and calm, would make sure they understood that truth. The stars above Earth glimmered like silver dust scattered across black velvet. The Galaxy Empire's massive fleet hovered near human space, yet the tension that had filled the void for weeks was slowly changing. Something in the Empire had shifted, though no one could say exactly what. Mira stood in Earth's command center, her notebook open before her. Reports from the fleets continued to arrive, each one telling a story of clever strikes, careful retreats, and human resilience. Every report carried hope, but Mira's calm eyes betrayed no excitement. She understood that this was not the end yet, only the moment when persistence could change history. The Empire's commander had called for another meeting. This time, the conversation would decide much more than tactics. It would decide the future of humanity's freedom. When Mira arrived aboard the neutral station, the commander waited as before. His golden eyes were sharper, but the tension in his posture was new. He had seen too much, and yet he could not admit it. "You persist," he said. "Your fleets have struck in ways I did not expect. Your people fight with patience, cunning, and determination. I had thought conquest simple, but I see now it is not." Mira nodded calmly. "Conquest is never simple. Strength alone cannot win a war. Understanding and respect are just as powerful, and humans are not easily understood, nor easily broken." The commander's advisors whispered among themselves, their expressions uneasy. The commander turned back to Mira, his voice quiet, almost reluctant. "You have shown me courage, willpower, persistence. I do not know if I can destroy it without losing much more than I gain. Perhaps a treaty is wiser than war." Mira remained calm. She had expected this outcome, yet she did not smile in triumph. She had learned long ago that calm and patience were far more valuable than pride. "A treaty is not a surrender," she said softly. "It is a recognition of strength. Humans have survived countless threats because we stand firm. The Empire would do well to respect that." The commander looked away for a long moment, studying the stars beyond the station. At last he spoke. "Very well. A treaty shall be drawn. Your people will keep their world, and no further attacks will come provided your fleets and civilians remain free. I will not underestimate humans again." Mira bowed her head slightly, not as a gesture of submission, but of acknowledgement. "Then peace can begin. Let it be a peace built on understanding, not fear." Outside, Earth's fleets returned from their hiding places. Pilots cheered silently as they entered orbit. Citizens on the planets watched the skies, their hearts lifting as word spread that the Empire had agreed to terms. For many, it was hard to believe. For Mira, it was simple. Humanity had shown what she had always known. That strength of spirit could match the greatest power in the galaxy. In the days that followed, treaties were signed, communication channels opened, and fleets returned to their home ports. Mira walked through the streets of her city, watching people resume their lives. Shops reopened, children played under the sun, and laughter returned to places that had known fear. A young soldier approached her, his uniform still dusty from the battles in the outer systems. "Lady Mira," he said, "how did you know they would listen?" Mira smiled gently. "I did not know. I only knew that humans do not give up. That is what they respect. Even the Empire could see it. Persistence speaks louder than weapons, courage louder than threats. That is humanity's way." The soldier nodded slowly, understanding more than she had said. Around her, others began to whisper the same truth. Humanity had endured. Humanity had fought back not just with weapons, but with spirit, patience, and cleverness. Far above, the commander of the Empire stared at the reports of Earth. He had expected a quick victory. He had expected submission. But he had learned that some opponents were different. They were unpredictable, unyielding, and impossible to break. Mira returned to her office, looking out at the stars. She wrote in her notebook, recording the lessons of the time, not for herself, but for future generations. Every word reminded her of the truth she had seen with her own eyes, that humans, when united in spirit and will, could face the greatest threats and survive. The galaxy had witnessed humanity's strength, and it would not forget. Mira closed her notebook, her calm expression steady. The stars twinkled above, but she did not need them to shine to feel the light of hope. Humanity had triumphed not by firepower nor by fleets alone, but by the unshakable spirit that lived within every human heart. And that spirit, quiet and steady, would guide Earth through all challenges to come. The war had been avoided. The Empire had been taught a lesson in respect, and Mira, calm, fearless, and wise, had shown the galaxy what it truly meant to face humanity. Humanity, she thought, had finally claimed victory not with swords but with courage.